Good evening. My name is Thurman Greco, and the name of this program is Let's Live, and it's coming to you from Woodstock, New York. And the reason that I'm very excited about this program this evening is that my third edition of the Healers Handbook is now officially available. And I'm very, very excited to share it with you, because this book it has taken years to get it together, and I've been working on it for years. And the other two versions, the first edition and the second edition, went out to over 24 countries. And I believe this one is a major step forward in healthcare. And I am so proud of it. And so I'm hoping to share it with you a little bit this evening. The thing that sets this book apart from other books in this category is the spirituality. This book sees your health through a spiritual lens. And this is very timely now, because we have come to realize with this pandemic that we do have to be in charge of our own health, because now more than ever we must be in charge of our own health. So this book is very timely. I found a young woman that I heard her giving a speech. She is an herbalist, and she lives up in Thurman, New York, and I felt like that was a real connection. And I heard her say, our health is a physical expression of the balance between our bodies and between our bodies and our environment. And our health is the result of everything we do, think, and come in contact with. It is a culmination of the actions and decisions that we make on a daily basis. And those two sentences said an awful lot to me. And I asked her if I could use it in this book, and she said yes, so I'm very grateful. Her name is Amy Cason, C-A-S-O-N. She is an herbalist. She does teach herbal medicine, and she teaches gardening and other things, because if you're an herbalist, you're definitely gonna have your hands in the dirt. And so she is right inside the front cover. And Wellness for All helps you explore your health and its care through a spiritual lens. So everything that is in this book explores your situation through a spiritual lens. And I'm a reflexologist and a Reiki master, and that definitely comes through. And when I wrote this book, I included several things that I felt were extremely essential if you're going to begin to take control of your health. And I think it's important. People who were never interested in taking control of their own health are now interested in that. So if you're going to begin that journey, then this is a good book to have. It's going to it's there. You can get an ebook, you can get the paper book, and it's very important, because if you have the paper book and the ebook, then you've always got this book with you whenever you need it, because you're going to be on a healing journey, and it doesn't make any difference whether you're helping someone else who is ill or whether you're helping yourself. In either case, you're on the journey. And this is a book that I would love to have had when my children were very young, because there was no such thing as this. When I had two young, very inquisitive daughters that were always up to no good, and I needed the information in this book. And of course I didn't have it. So then life went on, and I would love to have had this book when my grandchildren came along. But still, I didn't have this book when my grandchildren came along. So now it's up to the great-grandchildren that I pass this information along. I'm not diagnosing, I'm not treating, I'm not administering medicine, I'm not prescribing medicine. I'm talking about wellness and getting well. And I am offering you information in an easy to find format. You don't have to have a medical dictionary by your side in order to understand what you're reading. And you don't have to have a scientific background. All you have to do is just be able to read basic English. The book does come in several different sections, and the first section talks about your health and maintaining good health. It talks about how you heal. It talks about things that you can do throughout your life to maintain basic wellness. And it talks about things that are available to you. You know, there was a time in my life when I lived 50 miles from headhunters and 50 miles from a grocery store and 50 miles from the Amazon River. And there was just a lot that was not available to me down there. This book teaches you and inspires you to use what is around you to develop good health. And there are many different ways that we heal. And it's important to know. I know, for example, that physical healing, you can't deny that. When the temperature goes down, the body temperature goes down, when the cough goes away, when the broken leg mends, that's physical healing, and that is real. And physical therapists work on you, your physical healing. Doctors work with you on your physical healing. They heal you physically when they set bones and when they give you medicine. And then we have mythical healing. Mythical healing happens on the soul level. This is when you heal through your dreams. I don't know if I'm sure you have, because it's most of the people I know at some point in their lives, they'll say, well, I feel like I'm coming down with something. What I need to do is go home and go to bed and go to sleep. And of course, what you're doing is when you go, when you're coming down with something and you're not feeling well, you go home and you get in bed and you go to sleep. And that's mythical healing. That's healing on the dream level. Healing through spiritual ceremony. This is mythical healing. And symbolic healing. Symbolic healing is very, very interesting. That's when you have a conversation with someone about getting well. So symbolic healing, for me, is I think it's a very intimate thing. If somebody comes to me and they say my knee hurts or my shoulder hurts or whatever, right away I get right with them on that pain. I want to know, how long have you had this pain? And when did it begin? Was it 2 weeks ago? I went and saw a speech therapist this afternoon, and she wanted to know, well, when did you first notice the problems that you're having? So that's the same thing. When did this pain begin? And is it constant or is it intermittent? Do you have a pain in your neck when you try to turn your head? Do you have a pain in your neck all the time? Do you have a pain in your knee when you go up and down stairs? How often do you have this pain? And if you don't go up and down stairs, does your knee still hurt? And what makes your pain better and what makes it worse? So you see, you really get with symbolic healing. If somebody is, for example, discussing pain, you really get with it. And you want to know, does your pain change over time? Does it get better in the evening? Does it get better in the morning when you wake up? And where exactly does it hurt? Well, you say, well, it hurts on my knee. Is it on the outer part of your knee? Is it on the inner part of the knee? Is it down at the bottom? Is it the whole knee? So you want to know where exactly does it hurt. And then you want to know, does the pain move around or does it stay in one place? And then the next thing I want to know is, what does this pain feel like? And I want to know, what does it look like? Because people, when you start talking about what does your pain look like, you can look at somebody, you can see color. I once had a person say to me, it looks like twigs. And that was a person with arthritis. So, you have different ways of experiencing your pain. And also, what color is this pain? Is it red? Is it black? Is it green? Is it gray? And what does it sound like? Can you recreate the sound of that pain? What does it smell like? And what size and shape is your pain? Is it a flat covering on your knee? Is it a flat covering around the shoulder? Or is it a ball of pain? And what other symptoms go with this pain? Do you have a pain in your chest, and does it go when you get upset? Does it go when you're eating your food too fast? Do you have a chest pain? Do you have a chest pain when you go to bed at night? I mean, these are important things. But one thing I suggest to you is, when you know what the pain sounds like, you can recreate that pain. And often, when you do recreate that pain with sound, you can help it go away. And the next thing that we have is, we have energetic healing. And energetic healing does not rely on words. Reiki doesn't rely on words. Reflexology, chakra healing, body work, these things don't rely on words often. So you don't have to necessarily have energetic healing with words. And also, when you have a conversation about healing, you often have a conversation with a healer, but you can also have a conversation about healing, about your pain, with your physician, with a nurse. And you can also combine 2 or 3 things so that healing can come in several different categories. And I can assure you that good health is often not that difficult to achieve, really. You need to work on a healthy weight, because it's very hard to be healthy when you're obese. And that involves, for me, having a plant-based diet. And you need to exercise, or don't even call it exercise. You need to move. I do go to yoga classes, but when I walk throughout the day, I feel that I am moving. I am exercising. And you need to avoid stress. That's a crazy thing to try to avoid in today's market, when we don't even know whether we're getting over the pandemic. Some people don't believe we even have a pandemic. Some people think the pandemic is never going to go away. When you have a situation like that, you cannot. It is very difficult to avoid stress. One of the things that you can do to avoid stress is to find a healer and try to get some body work, to try to get the muscles and the joints in your body to relax. And try to relax a little bit so you can sleep better. And you need to think positive thoughts. And of course, risk factors are very, very important in life. We go through our lives doing all kinds of things that are essentially risk factors for disease. Eating enough to become overweight, that's a risk factor. Just getting stressed out, that's a risk factor. Not getting exercised is a risk factor. having a high cholesterol level. You need to know what these risk factors are, and you need to find out if you even have any of them. It may be that you're not paying any attention to your cholesterol, and you may not have a high cholesterol. So you need to find out about it. So then you can say to yourself, well, my cholesterol is not high, I don't have to worry about it. Then go on about your business. But if you go and you find out that your cholesterol is high, then you need to start thinking about it. That's how you take control of your health, is when something is not quite right, you look at it, you think about it, and you decide how you're going to deal with it. And you are going to deal with it. This is your issue, it's your body, it's your life, and you're going to take control. That's a wonderful thing. When I was very young, we didn't take control of our own health. You went to the doctor. Often the doctor wouldn't even tell me what was wrong with me. Several times I went to see a doctor when I was a young woman, and I would say, now, what's the problem? He would say, oh, just don't worry yourself about it. Come back in a couple of weeks. I didn't have any idea what was wrong. And because of the culture that I lived in, I didn't look the guy in the face and say, well, wait a minute. Let's go over this again. Instead, I just said, okay, thank you very much. Went out front to the waiting room and made an appointment for 2 weeks down the pike and had not a clue. And his attitude was just, don't worry yourself about this. I'm going to take care of this. You just go home and rest and relax. Well, that's what we did. But now we have learned through current events that we have to take care of ourselves. And that's one of the things that this book is so good about, because you're able to, if you find out, first of all, that you're suffering with obesity, you can look it up in the book, find the obesity chart, and you can get some tips, you can get some direction, and if it isn't obesity, maybe you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, which is very, very common in today's world. Whatever it is, and if you have children. I have included children's diseases in here, which I think is very, very important, because the way we treat children's diseases now and the way we treated them when my children were little are totally different. Because if you have chicken pox and you have a child with chicken pox, then you're gonna treat that child in certain ways. And there are certain things that you're gonna do and certain things you're not gonna do. And the same thing with whooping cough and impetigo and all these other things that children do come down with. One of the things that I think is really important, and I do talk about it in this book, is listening to your body. Waking up in the morning and asking yourself, am I tired? Did I get enough sleep last night? But I have to go to work today. That's fine. But can you come home early enough tonight and get enough sleep? Do you understand the importance of sleep? Sleep is probably one of the 3 most important things you can do for your good health. So we talk about sleep a lot, and I also talk about sleep in my blog, and I talk about sleep in the book. Sleep is a very, very important thing. And another thing is to think positively. Well, that's a real challenge in today's market, but I do manage to work on it. I do manage to figure out different things that are positive. And I also, can you connect with your community? Do you know what's happening in your community? Is there an election? Did you vote? Are you going to vote at the next one? What's happening in your community? I notice a big building is going up. There's a lot of things going on in this community. Are you paying any attention? Being connected to something beyond yourself. And I understand that if life is very stressful for you, if you can learn Reiki, Reiki will help you a lot. I have had several programs here that are now on YouTube, that are about Reiki. I have had programs about reflexology. Those are also good. And I will have others. And that's something that you can do, and I do talk about it in this book. And I talk about several different things that you can do that will develop good health. And one of them is making friends with people. Another one is exercising regularly. I swear, exercise shows up very, very often. It's very often how different circumstances all point to exercise. And trying to not be obese, that's another one that shows up a lot. And another one is learning to cope. It's amazing to me how some people have not learned to cope. I don't know how they have made it to adulthood, but they have not learned to cope. So you have to learn to do that. And then I also have several chapters in here, and I have a very interesting chapter called A Path to Self-Care. We find ourselves at different times in our lives in a quandary. We know something is not right, and we are not able, for whatever reason, to figure out how to get it right. And that's when I recommend a health journal. Basically, you're going to write down several different things every day. Depending upon what your situation, you're going to write about several different things for 2 weeks. And then you go see the doctor, or you go see your healthcare provider, whatever situation that is, and you discuss them. Because I think that's extremely important. And I do have several different ways that you can offer yourself self-care. So I have a whole section on taking control of your health, taking control of your health destiny, because that's extremely important. And then in the second section, I list the body systems and the chakras. Now, for some of you, that's just a big ho-hum, but there are many, many people who do not know about chakras, and they do not know about their body systems. There are many people who know that the circulatory system involves their heart, or the muscular system involves their muscles, but they really don't go beyond that. And my section of this book talks about your body systems, system by system, and it deals with the spirituality of your body system. So that if you're going to read about the respiratory system, you're going to read about the spirituality of the respiratory system, which is a completely different thing. And I know one of the first things that I had to learn when I got in massage school because massage is all about anatomy and physiology. That's what it's all about. And I learned that there are different books out there. There are different writers. There are different attitudes. There are different ways to describe your immune system, for example. There are different ways to describe your endocrine system. And I have chosen to describe all of the body systems as they apply to your spirituality. So this is a whole new way of looking at your body systems. And of course, there are some people who know nothing about chakras, and yet there are others who know a lot about chakras, but they don't know anything about their body systems. So in either event, I've got both of these systems covered, and I have a lot of interesting information regarding your wellness on both of these. And then finally, I introduce what I call the toolbox. And the toolbox is a very, very interesting part of the book. And there are a lot of people out there who buy the book for the toolbox. They're truly not interested in their muscular system or their circulatory system or their respiratory system, but they are interested in knowing about their arthritis or their asthma or their athlete's foot or their colitis or whatever. And there are a lot of diseases, and they are offered alphabetically. So the first listing under A's is, let's see what the first one is. There we go. Okay. It's not Alzheimer's disease. Acne. That's the first one. And it goes clear through to, what is the last one? Maybe it's one. UVW. Whooping cough and yeast infection. Okay, so the last one is yeast infection. And the next to last one is whooping cough. And it's really interesting that we go through, we have all of these diseases in between, and I talk about what the disease is and what is the spirituality of the disease. I talk about the healing systems. I talk about the affected chakras. I talk about things you can do. And I talk about a lot of diseases. One of the diseases that I talk about is fibromyalgia. And I think fibromyalgia is one of the most difficult diseases that a person can have. Because once you begin to realize that you've got something, and you start going to different people, trying to get some relief, you're going to finally start going to practically anybody. Somebody is going to look you straight in the face and say, this is all in your head. This isn't real. Well, I beg to differ with you. If you suspect that you have fibromyalgia, it is a real disease, and it is not all in your head, and you keep going until you find some health care that's going to deal with your situation because you need the relief. So that's something that's very, very important. Another thing that I talk about that I think is extremely important is insomnia. There are so many people. A good night's sleep is so difficult to get, especially now that we are coming off of the pandemic. I've had people come to me and say, I haven't had a decent night's sleep in a year. That wears you down. That can be very, very destructive. Having a good night's sleep is probably one of the 3 most important facets of your life if you're concerned about your good health. So, I've listed this here. And another problem I list is irritable bowel syndrome. And irritable bowel syndrome, you're not neurotic. It is a real disease. And it is a disease that requires some attention, and it requires you have to be dedicated to get over it, and it's a miserable disease. So it is there. Then we go on down. I did talk about stroke. I've reached the stage now where stroke is realistic for a lot of people. And many of us, I see people when I'm walking around town, when I'm walking in the grocery store, when I'm going around people that I do not know, I see people all the time with swollen hands and feet. And I'm wondering, are you getting the kind of healing care that you need? Or have you just given up? Or are you just ignoring the whole thing? Because whatever it is, you should not be walking around with swollen hands and feet. It's just a really interesting thing. Another disease I have here is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is alive and well in our country today. It's doing very well, thank you. There are a lot of people out there who have it. It's all over the world, and you could have it. You could know someone with it. And so it's something for, if you think you may have it, it's something to think about. And another thing that I have written about is typhoid fever. And of course I can remember, I keep going back to my youth, but I can remember finding out about typhoid fever and knowing a person who has typhoid fever and seeing that person after he has gotten better from typhoid fever. Typhoid fever is not something you joke around with, and it is in our country. It is in our country. It is a current disease. So if you don't know any, and people in this country, even though typhoid fever is in this country, it's alive and well, thank you, and it does attack people all the time. There are a lot of people who have never been around typhoid fever. They have not a clue. So if you come up, find yourself against typhoid fever, there is a listing, because it's real. Another listing that I have is an underactive thyroid. I see people every day in the grocery store, in whatever store I happen to be in. I see people every day, and I can tell by looking at them that they've got an underactive thyroid. And an underactive thyroid is a miserable thyroid to have. You don't have the energy to get through your day. Your brain is not competitive. It doesn't work as quick as it should. And you're not warm enough. People with thyroid disease they're not hot and sweaty. They are always a little bit chilly. They become, after a while, overweight. And the thing about thyroid disease, underactive thyroid disease, is you go to bed at night exhausted. And you may sleep all night. And the alarm goes off in the morning, and you get up, and you look around, and you feel just as exhausted this morning as you did last night. And your muscles do not work as well as they should, so you are unable to lift as well as you lift. You are unable to think. Your mental capacity is not as sharp as it is. And you begin to gain weight. And as you try to gain weight, I know that I went through this experience. My thyroid condition was not being treated at the time. And I knew that I was overweight, and I knew that I needed to lose some weight. So I put myself on a diet, and I stayed on that diet, and I didn't lose an ounce. And I should have known at that point something wasn't right. But I didn't have the clarity of thought because my thyroid was underactive. And the IQ was down. And so finally, I reached a point where I could not lift anything. And I knew that things were just not right. And I went in to see this doctor, and I said, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm just not functioning. And then he said, well, maybe. Thyroid disease does not have any sex appeal. So when you go in to see your doctor and you have a thyroid condition, he's not going to get all excited over your thyroid condition, I don't think. And if he or she does, maybe you should forward that person's name to me so that I can spread the word, this doctor going to try. One of the reasons that they don't get all that excited is that they give you the test, and the test is not all that accurate. And your thyroid could be 50% gone and it would come up normal. So there's nothing that's really there to entice the physician to go out of his way. Nevertheless, a thyroid condition can be very, very disheartening. And then listen, when I finally got the medicine, and I didn't even get very much medicine at that, because you don't give people very much right away. If you give them too much, they'll get a little shaky. So they run a risk of it, and then they get scared and they won't take the medicine, and they don't realize that this is going to help you. So what they did was they gave me a little bit of thyroid medication. I lost 15 pounds in 3 days. Because the medicine got in my body and kicked in, and the thyroid worked. And there are books out there that talk about dealing with your thyroid condition without taking the medication. I wish you luck. I do them both. Take the medication, read the book, do what the book says. That's what I have to say about it. Because you're going to feel about 2,000% better when you finally do get it taken care of. And there are a lot of it goes all the way through the alphabet. So this is a very good book to take with you through your life. And it's certainly one it's not a fad. It's not going to have something brand new in it that in 6 months that news is worthless and didn't work well. The medicine, the theories, the practices in these books are tried and true. And the information about your chakras is reliable, it's accurate. The information about your body systems is reliable and accurate and interesting. And at the very least, I'm hopeful that you will be motivated to maybe read some more about your body systems in someone else's book. One of the things I did have to learn when I was first learning about anatomy and physiology is that all kinds of books are written with the information is different in each book. In other words, Thurman Greco describes anatomy and physiology her way. But somebody else over here may also be writing a physiology and anatomy book and come up with similar or differing things. Especially, they're going to come up with differing things when it comes to the endocrine system, because the endocrine system is not that well understood. And a lot of people realize when they start reading the endocrine system that what they just read didn't say a whole heck of a lot. And that's because a lot of the endocrine system is not necessarily known that well. In any event, the Healers Handbook, Wellness for All, is available to you. It's a wonderful guide, very easy to carry with you, and very good to have. And I appreciate your getting it. You can purchase it through ThurmanGreco.com, and you can get a paper book or an ebook. And there's the first edition, the second edition, and now the third edition, Wellness for All. And thank you very, very much for your attention this evening.